The Oden's Eye holiday collection is here, so let's take a deeper look. So again, this year we have 2 palettes. Last year they also launched 2 palettes, and the year before that they launched 2 palettes. And this year they will be also restocking the 2 palettes from last year. And I did receive these palettes from Oden's Eye in PR, and I also do have an affiliate code with them, which I'll put up on the screen. There is one more product, and it is a handheld mirror, and it is so tiny. I can see one eye in this, so it's cute but not something I will get too much use out of. And these will be launching Sunday, November 10th at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And each of the palettes is $43.90. So first we have the Rosie Jingle palette, and this is a pink, yellow, mauve color story, a little bit more on the pastel side. There's only one deeper shade in here, and it's a satin shade, almost like a cream to powder without it feeling like powder. It's definitely a little bit harder pressed, and you will see how that performs. I will be creating 2 looks with each of the palettes, and I will be using this shade. And there's also a marbled shade, so it seems to be kind of like the new thing that they've been adding to these palettes, and I believe it is a multi-chrome. Usually there's one multi-chrome in each Oden's Eye palette. And then the Silvery Bliss palette, I love this color story. I love red and black together, as well as these 2 other kinds of tones paired together. I was very excited to see this color story when I first opened up the palette. There's been a lot of red themed eyeshadow palettes coming out in the past year, and I think this is one of my favorite ones, though it is a little bit more monochromatic leaning than some of the others. And this palette also has a marbled shade in the center of the palette, so I'm going to be showing you detailed swatches of each of the shimmer shades, talking about the textures. Are they smooth, are they shiny, or are they sparkly? And then I will be doing 2 looks with each of the palettes, and then at the end of the video I'll give you some of my initial thoughts, so let's get right into it. First up is the Rosie Jingle palette. We have New Year Wishes, Celebration Heart, and Sparkling. These all feel a little bit more emollient to the touch for sure, but you really have to press down in the pan. And it was actually interesting to use the shimmers before swatching them on my lid with a brush. I feel like it gave me a different perspective on these because I couldn't tell which shades would be more emollient or not. I'm also going to add Champagne, and same with this one. This one is so pretty. I love the shade. I think this is one of my favorite shades in the palette. So it looks like we have one multi-chrome, which is the marbled shade. The shade is very orange, but it has pink and blue flecks throughout it. It is so pretty. I'm gonna show a little bit of a close-up so that you can really see it, especially when it goes out of focus, the different sparkles throughout it. And here are the other 4 shimmer shades in the palette. These feel more like a standard shimmer formula, so they don't feel squishy in the pan. So here's Radiant, Pure Silver, Dreamy, and Golden Bell. And they do all look very smooth. I do think these 2 shades would sheer out. I really like the selection of these, and I like that there's varying levels of opacity. So this one is very opaque, but some of these other shades have less of a base. Especially love the shade Dreamy. It's like a periwinkle with a really pale yellow flash. And then here's a close-up. First 4 shades from the Silvery Bliss palette: Silver Stream, Golden Club, Vision, and Pink Fantasy. Silver Dream and Pink Fantasy have the same feel to them, so they're a little bit more emollient. Vision is very squishy in the pan. It's very oily as well, while Golden Cup feels more like a regular shimmer shade. I feel like I need to start a little bit further to get a really nice just wrap around. See that one? It just, the way it just slides and glides. This one did stain a little bit when I swatched it on my arm earlier. Here's what my finger looks like after swatching that. It's basically a black base with pink flecks throughout it, so it's got that sparkle. I really do like Golden Cup. It has a little bit of dimensionality of different sparkles throughout it. And then Pink Fantasy, of course, is a real special one because it is the marbled shade, so when you mix it together, you just get a bunch of different flecks throughout it. That being said, I don't think any of these are necessarily multi-chromes. There's just a little bit of a shift in Golden Cup, and here's a close-up. And the other 4 shades are Silvery Bliss, Golden Glam, Holiday Wishes, and Longing. These are definitely my favorite 4 shades from the palette. Golden Glam is a little bit more flaky, but it does look like it will smooth out. And Holiday Wishes is a very smooth. And none of these 4 shades feel squishy or emollient. They feel like regular shimmer shadows. Look at this one. Oh, it's so sparkly. Oops, I just accidentally mixed those 2 together, which actually will be very interesting to layer those. And then this one right here, just really smooth. Not the shiniest or the sparkliest, but very smooth. especially loving these two shades. This is like a mid-tone smoky plum, and this one is more of like a cool tone pink. And I do see bright pink flecks throughout this one. And here's a close-up. First two looks will be with the Rosie Jingle palette. I'm dipping into Tofif because that is a typo, which I still can't believe that there's typos in their palettes. I was hoping by now they would have fixed that, but it's also on the back of the palette, so yeah. And this looks like it's the deepest shade in this palette, and it is like a satin shade, but it looks pretty much matte. I see maybe a little bit of a gold sheen on it, just a little bit, and I'm just gonna pack on a little bit more underneath and on the outermost edge. Wiped off the brush, and I'm taking Joyful right next to that and also blending it into the orangey brown out here, and then wiping off my brush again. And I think I'm gonna go in with Pink Dream on this inner corner, inner crease. Picked up Golden Bell, and I misted my brush, and I'm gonna put that right in the center of my lid and bring it a little bit onto the outer corner just so that there is no harsh edge. And that is applying really nicely with the brush. And then I think on the inner corner, I'm a little in between the kind of marbled shade, Celebration Heart or Champagne. I'm kind of thinking Celebration Heart. I'm actually really curious what that's going to look like. It does pick up really nicely on the brush, so I didn't even miss it. Oh yeah, that's really nicely spreading. I haven't swatched it yet, so I'm afraid it's going to be squishy right now when I'm using it, but wow, that applied super easy. I am very excited about that. Here's the first finished look. Moving on to the second look, I'm taking Blue Ocean, and I'm gonna pop that on the inner. Ooh, actually I should have put it, I think I should have put it on the outer corner. It's fine. I'm taking that shade and popping it right on the lid and on the inner crease, and then also on the outer corner. And I'm just going to create a halo eye. I just got an idea on what I want to do. So it's just going to be out here. And that is applying very nicely. And then in the center, I'm going to wipe off my brush. I think in the center, I'm going to go in with Sweet Moments. I'm just going to wipe off my brush so that there's nothing extra left on it, and then just blend. I'm going to take a little bit more Bluebell and mix it in, which creates a really fun purple in there as well in between when they mix. Taking Warmth, and I'm going to pop that right on the lid, on the inner lid and on the outer lid. Just kind of packing it on. And then I'm whipping out my brush, and I'm going to slowly blend it into the periwinkle. And I'm going to add a little bit more here. And once again, my eye is watering. I'm not sure. It's always the left eye, and now it's gonna stick down to where it's watering, which is just lovely. I feel like this shade is a little funky, but I think it's because I put down the periwinkle first, so I feel like they're not really meshing together. So I'm going to go back and just add a little bit more of the periwinkle and just like mush them together with the brush. Actually, let me go back in with this. I feel like maybe it was the brush, because that was just like a really prickly brush, and I feel like this Refro one is mixing it in so much better. Okay, I think it was the brush. Probably gonna get rid of that one then. Picked up Dreamy, and I misted my brush with just some water. I'm gonna put that right in the center. Oh, this shade is so pretty. And that is applying really, really nicely, very easily. It's got like a gold reflect to it. It actually reminds me of the Easter shades from Glaminatrix Cosmetics quite a few years ago. I'm not sure if you remember the ones I'm talking about. And then I'm just gonna wipe off a little bit of some of the fallout that I have from the shade, just a little bit. This one actually, I don't think I had like any fallout. And here's the second finished look. Onto the Silvery Bliss palette. I'm so extra excited to use this palette. This color story is definitely my favorite of the two. Picking up Cocoa Milk and I'm putting it onto the outer corner. Just kind of tapping it on first, a little bit underneath the lower lash line as well. And then I'm going to wipe off my brush and I'm going to take Softness and blend it on the edges of that. I feel like this is a very interesting combination. I really like it. I think that they're blending together really nicely. There's just like kind of like a tonal contrast, which I think is creating a really interesting kind of look to it. And I'm going to add a little bit more softness in here. Just really smoke it out here. Picked up Longing and I'm missing my brush with just some water and I'm just putting that kind of in the center and I'm going to bring it up into my crease. Definitely feel a little bit of fallout. I think this would have been better with a tacky primer just to really help it adhere. I'm going to actually take my pinky and just kind of press it in a little bit more, but it's very, very sparkly. Picked up Pink Fantasy. And I did not miss my brush, and this one is spreading very nicely as well. This one has like gold green flecks and bright pink flecks too, so it makes it very dimensional. It looks a little flaky. I feel like it maybe applied a little flakier. I'm just gonna kind of swoop that up. You can definitely see the pink now. I haven't swatched these shades yet, so this is kind of like a just going in with brushes, no sort of idea on how any of these feel or swatch. And here's the first look. For the second look, I'm gonna do an eyeshadow wing, so I'm gonna take Pure Red and just kind of map it out with the shade first. I'm gonna stop it about halfway into my lid. And I'm just gonna put on a little bit more and just really wing it out. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit just so I have room to add another layer. I'm gonna use a deeper matte and just really smoke this out. So now I'm gonna dip into Chocolate Cake. I'm just gonna apply that only close to my lash line. This is the What's Up Beauty R112 brush, and I'm picking up New Year's End. And I'm just gonna put that right up against my lash line. Really keeping it controlled. Doing the same underneath my lower lash line. And then I'm gonna go back in with this brush. And I'm not picking up anymore. I'm just going over the black just to make sure it's blended in. Picked up Holiday Wishes that I missed in the brush with just some water. I'm just gonna put this really close to my lash line. This is a red with gold flecks throughout it. It's a very pretty shade. Taking a Silvery Bliss. I'm gonna swoop that up in here. This is the Refer 26 brush. And I'm just gonna put that all the way up above my crease, just swoop it up, really highlight that up here. This is such a pretty shade. This is definitely a one and done kind of shadow. And here's the second finished look. So obviously Rosie Jingle is a very pastel leaning color story. There is only one somewhat deeper matte in here, which it's not really a matte, it's more of a satin shade. It almost feels a little bit like a cream to powder. It's a little bit harder pressed and it does take a little bit of building up. It actually reminds me of that orangey shade in the new Donna Myricks Lightwork palette. Fully sure how I feel about it, and it is the first time I'm experiencing it in the Oden's Eye palette. I do wish there was 1 or 2 deeper mattes in this palette. I think it would have really just rounded out this color story because I do really like the tones in here. As for the shimmers, unfortunately some of the shimmers do feel a bit squishy in the pan. You really have to press down in them, but the rest of the shades are so beautiful, very smooth and very shiny and sparkly, and they apply with a brush really nicely, which I'm really happy about that, and also the fact that there's no super flaky kind of shades in here. So I will keep you updated on the shimmers between both of the palettes, of course. Onto the Silvery Bliss palette. This is for sure my favorite color story of the two. I think this is one of my top favorite color stories from Oden's Eye. I just love these colors together. It feels very holiday, and I love the shimmers in here. Love Silvery Bliss. It looks so beautiful and ethereal on the eyes. It's very sparkly. You can build it up a little bit, but it is for sure a great kind of one and done shadow. And I think Longing would also make a really great one and done type of shadow. There is one wet feeling shade in here, unfortunately, and it is Vision. But I'm not too concerned about it because, one, it's not really a shade that I will really use a lot or even at all. It's just not the kind of shimmer shadow that I do gravitate towards. And two, even if I was to use it the way I do eye looks, I would not be using that one anywhere near my crease. So I'm not really too concerned that that shade is in here, but I do really wish it wasn't so squishy and emollient. And then the marbled shade is very similar to the one in Rosie Jingle palette. It's maybe a little bit more emollient, but nowhere near Vision or any of these other shades. So it's kind of like an in between. Overall, I do gravitate towards this palette, not only the color story, but just the selection of the mattes as well as the selection of the shimmers, even though Vision, obviously, as I mentioned, not something that I would really use, but the rest of the shades are so beautiful. And also I like that there is a very smooth, more kind of standard metallic shimmer shade, which is Holiday Wishes, which these are really hard to read down below because of the pattern. It is beautiful, but they're really hard to read. So let me know in the comments below which palette is your favorite, which look is your favorite. Do you plan on picking anything up from this collection? I would love to hear your thoughts. And that's everything for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you next time.